Can you remember the story about one of your callers in Montreal, a Dutch woman? This is what I found in the clipping file, who called you up and was warning you about little men from space.
You're bloody right, I remember it.
Could you tell me that story?
I think this was perhaps the most unusual, and I'll give you the story without any exaggeration at all, just as it happened. Yes, she was a frequent caller, and I used to let her on. She was great on this little green men from Mars, as I call them. She didn't used to call them that. I used to call them little green men from Mars. She used to see them on St. Catherine Street. Well, how did she know? She could tell by their eyes. And she had met them in Eaton's and so on and so forth. And I thought that clearly the lady is a little out of her tree, you know, but I used to have her on for comedy relief, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I let her on, get away from the heavy stuff, and I used to kid her and prod her and bring her on, you know, make more and more outrageous statements, which she did, you know. And I did this merely for comedy relief for the rest of the listeners, you see. Well, this particular night she called up, and I can tell you the time was about 15, 17 minutes after 5 o'clock in the evening. And that's a heavy time in radio. It's what's called drive time, between 4 and 6 when people are in their cars. Big audience build up. Correspondingly, your commercial load is that much heavier, and the price is a little higher, you know.
Right.
And she got on, and I said, "Oh, you." I said, and I was way behind in commercials. That was the problem. And I said, "No, I'm sorry. Look, I can't let you talk about your little green men now. I'm far too busy, and I'm behind in commercials and everything. I can't let you do it." She screamed, "If you cut me off, they'll cut you off." I said, "Doll, it's all very well for you to say that. Tell me tomorrow why they didn't. I'm going to cut you off. Goodbye." Next call, Burns that line, go ahead. And we are as dead as a doornail. And we stayed dead. Now, normally a radio station is dead for about 2-3 minutes is a long period of time because the transmitter kicks in a secondary, which usually has music, to at least let you know the station's on there. We couldn't get a peep out of it, nothing, for over 6 hours. Over 6 hours. So all the next day, of course, we blew all that commercial.
Oh, God, yeah, no doubt.
And Don Wall wasn't too happy about that. I wasn't either. So the next day, of course, all the listeners are calling up, and what does Pat think now? What does Pat think now? See, Pat was pretty odd about the whole thing. Coincidence. So, the next night she calls up and she says, about the same time, would you believe? Drive time, after 5 o'clock. I said, "What did I tell you? You cut me off, they'll cut you off." And I was hot. I said, "Coincidence, doll, coincidence." I said, oh no, I warned you. I warned you. You never got another word out of this. You cut me off again, they'll do the same." I said, "Try for 3, goodbye." Burns the line, go ahead. We are as dead as a doornail again. This time, fortunately, it wasn't 6 hours, but it was a half hour.
Right.
And just over a half hour, 30, 35 minutes. Don Wall came roaring into the studio and said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Don, I don't know how she's doing it, or if she's doing it. How do I know?" You know? Well, the third night came. Well, the phones the next day were just, and even that night, what did Pat think now? What did Pat think now? Pat doesn't know what the hell to think. The next night, cunningly, she gets on him at the same time. I said, "Doll, I'm not going for 3. You want to talk about your little green men from Mars, you go right ahead and talk about them. I won't cut you. I'll give you as much time as you want." No, I don't want to talk about them. I just want to let you know. Anytime you cut me off, and I do want to talk, they'll cut you off. I said, "Doll, I'm not going to cut you off. You just go right ahead and talk." I said, No, I don't want to talk. Goodbye.